Hello, and welcome to another episode of Chuchu Reviews, the show where I take 4 random, unrelated albums and I stick them in a blender, and then I review them, I rate them, and I rank them. Simplicity achieved. 3 of the records this week were pulled from the comments, so if you have an album you'd like to see featured, why not drop a suggestion, and who knows, you might just get lucky. So let's introduce this week's combatants in alphabetical order. Firstly, we have My Maudlin Career by Obscura from 2009, which was nominated by Steve. Next we have The Innocents by Erasure from 1988, which was nominated by Gibbon56. Then we have Pop-Up, Ker-Ching and the Possibilities of Modern Shopping by Mozart Estate from 2023, which is my own personal pick. Lastly we have Argus by Wishbone from 1972, which was nominated by Gary Gillam. So now the battle lines have been drawn, let's be complete rankers and rank up a storm. This is Chuchu Reviews. Coming in last this week we have The Innocents by the synth-pop duo Erasure from 1988, which was the band's third LP and the one that shot the act into 1980s megastardom. It went double platinum in the UK and spawned 2 hits on the American Billboard charts. It was also well reviewed and still maintains a strong critical standing as a classic of its genre. Except, I don't really like it that much. I mean, subjectivity can be a bitch sometimes. That typical 80s synth-pop sound with the stabby keyboard, synth bass and electronic gated drums is a sound that I rarely warm to. Unless it goes all in with the cheesiness, and then maybe I can enjoy it on a kind of trashy level. But Erasure are not trashy. There's an earnest sense of emotion here and a sliver of creeping darkness. The band's heart and head is in the right place, so I'll definitely give them credit for that. But the soundscapes of the compositions make it hard for me to enjoy this on any kind of deeper appreciation level. And the worst tracks really do grate on my nerves. Chains of Love is the worst kind of slick 80s radio cheese. I find it incredibly dull and would likely change the station if it came on in the car. Hallowed Ground is pretty dire. Its sanctimonious tales of society gone wrong and won't somebody think of the children vibes are so earnestly and unironically presented that it makes me want to retch my dinner up into the nearest charity bucket. Yahoo is a praise Jesus Christian values espousing song with overblown gospel elements. I mean, that kind of thing might be nice for some, but seeming as I just fucked a pig and drank some sacrificial chicken blood with Christopher Hitchens, I'd have to take a pass on that. World Closer, Weight of the World is such a bland anodyne tune with nothing interesting to say that it's wholly undeserving of such a pretentious title. So there are many reasons why this LP doesn't float my boat. But it's not all bad, there are some great flashes of life on this too. A Little Respect kicks the record off with an 80s pop classic, Andy Bell's beautiful vocal work nicely teasing some emotion out of the tune. Ship of Fools has some dark but obtuse lyrics that add some intrigue into the track's low atmospherics. 65,000 is a fun synth instrumental that sounds like it's escaped directly off the Sonic CD soundtrack, which is not necessarily a bad thing, unless it was from one of those bastard underwater stages, in which case it can fuck off and die. While Imagination is pretty cool with his atmospherically layered backing track, catching the attention with his gothic tinge subtlety. But yeah, the good stuff here is a bit like putting a band-aid on a severed limb, it's just not going to make that much difference. I'm sure there are millions of people that absolutely love this record. Sadly, I'm just not one of them. Sometimes you just gotta call a spade, and I just don't like this record very much. Sorry about that. 2.5 stars. Next up we have Pop-Up, Ker-Ching and the Possibilities of Modern Shopping by Mozart Estate from 2023. And yeah, much like the last episode's LP by Beirut, this was picked via me trawling through this year's indie releases looking for something fun or interesting. And boy, this record is certainly both fun and interesting. Although it sounds like a fresh-faced pop band putting out their debut LP, this is actually the work of Lawrence, he of the 80s cult band Felt, the 90s Britpop adjacent Denim, and latterly Go-Kart Mozart, which is segued directly into this project, Mozart Estate. I guess Lawrence just has a hard-on for Mozart, although, to be fair, who doesn't like a bit of Mozart every now and again? And what we have here is a super tweet exercise in sleep depriving pop catchiness. Like, seriously, the catchiness of this album is off the goddamn scale. The musical compositions are often laughably basic. They feel like a bunch of 10-year-old kids monkeying around with an old Casio. But there's actually something really charming about them, like these compositions are somehow just right for the nuclear grade catchiness of Lawrence's vocals and lyrics. And talking about lyrics, they're excellent across the board. Lawrence immediately grabs your ears and pulls you in, making you pay rapt attention to whatever it is that he wants to sing about. Which a lot of the time is just pure nonsense, but hilariously so. This LP has a delightful comedic lilt to it, and regularly makes you crack a smile or even stifle a brief chuckle. I mean, how can you not laugh at the song I Wanna Murder You, as over a cheesy stuttering disco guitar backing, Lawrence informs us, "Slide a knife across your skin, chop you up, then put you in the bin. I tell you, murder is not a sin. I wanna murder you." Likewise, on Looking Through Glass, he confesses, "I'm begging on the streets for your hard-earned cash. Just a little of your hard-earned cash. I won't pretend I'm gonna spend it on a whole food snack. More like gear, beer or hash." And so it goes. The record is stuffed to the gills with memorable lyrics and earwormy highlights. Others include the Kingsian music hall synth romp of Relative Poverty, the pure dumb catchiness of "Four white men in a black car," which sees Lawrence reading off a list of takeaway foods, the super charming flanker for Mr. Flowers with his delightful wispy Englishness, and the really bizarre, repetitive yet bonkersly catchy likes of Poundland, Pink and the Purple and Record Store Day. So yeah, this falls somewhere between the Kinks, Blur, Belle and Sebastian and the Divine Comedy. It's a really joyous record and a wonderful find that makes me very intrigued to check out Lawrence's most famous work with Felt. But this record is tacky, cheap and trashy, it's hilarious and just tons of fun. 4 stars. Next up we have My Maudlin Career by Camera Obscura, which was the band's 4th LP from 2009. And what we have here is a dream pop album with the usual type of jangly guitars, echo-laden reverbing soundscapes and distant shoegazy scores. It's a mix that isn't particularly original, but it is done very well, with Tracy Ann Campbell's emotion-heavy lyrics bringing gravitas to a set that is mostly comprised of stately ballads. Tracks like Away with Murder and James ache with a heart-wrenching sadness, their grand balladeering and wilting melodies sweeping you away into a world of broken relationships and sullen regrets. French Navy, meanwhile, kicks off the LP with a callback to the bubblegum girl groups of the 1960s. It's super catchy romantic pop recalling the Supremes, the Shirelles and the likes of Brenda Lee and Sandy Shaw. Forest and Sands is a lyrically commanding trawl through romantically devastated wastelands. You Told a Lie has a wonderfully catchy chorus and shoegazy guitars that fool you into thinking that they might be strings. While Swans is awesome with its sorrowful Smithian melody, bolstered by a gorgeous jangly guitar performance and a memorable central riff. So there are plenty of emotionally salient reasons to love this record. However, now it's time to enter the dreaded nitpick zone. Firstly, this album has a very homogenized sound. It's a good sound and these are nice songs, but a lot of them are very similar to each other. And this extends to the indie dream pop genre as a whole. Back in the late 2000s, the market was flooded with these types of records. I mean, where exactly is the divide between My Maudlin Career by Camera Obscura and Bloom by Beach House? As such, I think 49 minutes is a bit too long for something that is ostensibly quite samey. If you could shave 10 minutes off this, you'd end up with a stronger record. And this thought is compounded by a small late album wobble. The track Other Towns and Cities is a minimalistic lyrical dirge, which might have been fine enough, but the track directly preceding it, the aforementioned Forests and Sands, is also a lyrical dirge, albeit a more complex and better one. This pairing does hold the momentum of the LP, and although the band do try to course correct with the horn-splashed upbeat pop of Honey in the Sun, it's still a bit of a throwaway tune that doesn't quite do enough to get things back on track. And with those two tracks combined, you'd probably have near 10 minutes of disposable material to, well, yeah, dispose of. But yeah, ultimately my nitpicks are just that, nitpicks. This is still a great record that easily impresses with its grandiose sweep and collapsing sadness. 4 stars. So, the Chuchu Review's gold medal this week is going to go to Argus by Wishbone from 1972, which was the band's third LP. And surprisingly, instead of being a catalogue for buying last minute Christmas presents, what we have here is a guitar based album of prog rock. And the instrumentation is surprisingly frugal for a prog rock band. There are no synths, organs or even strings. It's all just bass, drums, guitars and vocals, just the bare bones building blocks of rock music. But this stripped back approach works beautifully because both the playing and the songwriting is as tight as a drum and laser focused. Stylistically, this LP is also more jangly and country rock tinged than most prog albums. It has just as much similarity to Creedence Clearwater Revival as it does with bands like King Crimson or Yes. And I really like the lighter, jangly and more autumnal sound that the band have put together here. It's more directly emotive and wistful than the majority of prog rock, which is a genre that often delights in being somewhat aloof. And as for general quality, well, this record is an exercise in pinpoint perfection. There are only 7 tracks and every one of them is great. Time Was kicks off with lovely arpeggiated riffs that immediately hook you into the record, before switching into a country-tinged jangle rock banger. I mean, if you removed some of the kick-ass guitar solos and epic sensibilities, you'd probably end up with something that sounds not a million miles away from IRS-era REM, which is certainly not a bad thing. Sometime World starts as a beautiful Bowie-esque ballad before dovetailing into pure awesomeness via catchy vocal chanting and an absolutely rad set of guitar solos that get continually more gnarly as they go on. Blowin' 3 has some gorgeous vocal harmonies and a nice jangly lightness, augmenting the expected eventual guitar histrionics. The King Will Come is brilliant with his fun historical/fantasy lyrics, proggy ebb and flow and cool proto-metal riffage. Leaf and Stream is beautiful with its folky leanings, bucolic lyrics and amazing bluesy trills. Warrior is tons of medieval swords and shields fun, while Throw Down the Sword is a pitch-perfect climactic guitar showcase that has dueling twin lead guitar solos that play at the same time, bouncing off each other and interplaying perfectly. It's rare to hear that kind of technique employed and it's pretty damn impressive. So yeah, every second of this album's 44-minute runtime is a moment of gold-plated prog rock bliss. This is a phenomenal LP and absolutely essential listening if you like the prog rock genre. 5 stars! And that's another episode of Chuchu Reviews in the bag. Of course, I know you'd rank these records differently, so why not sound off in the comments and tell me which one would win for you, and maybe drop a nomination while you're there. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and all that other kind of YouTube jazz. Make sure to take care of yourself, but most importantly, just keep on ranking.